Welcome to another conversation with Senator Michael Moore. My name's Kevin Byrne, and Senator Michael Moore is our state senator who represents the 2nd Worcester District, made up of a whole lot of places, but more importantly, the town and the community of Shrewsbury. He represents 7 different areas.
Close.
6?
6.
6. Okay. I've gotten it wrong again. And his director of communication, who provides me every time we do one of these programs, they say, Alex, can you just send me some stuff that might want to talk about? And today I only got 13 pages worth of that stuff, okay? But I'm going to try his name too, because he is a delightful young man whom I've never met, but I've communicated on email with him 1,000 times, and his name is Alex Mutafian.
Close. We'll give it to you.
Mutafian?
Mutafian.
Mutafian. I was going to say Mutafian. Now, isn't this an interesting way, folks who are watching us, how we start these kind of programs? Michael,
Yes, sir.
it's been a month
Yes.
since we did a program.
Yeah, a lot of good things have gone
A
on.
lot of good things have gone on, and a lot of crazy things have gone on with the weather. Because right at the moment, I am being plagued with 90-degree weather that will not cease. It goes from 90, and then the next day to 91. And I pulled into this parking lot just about an hour or so ago. My little car said it was 93 degrees, and the humidity was 930 degrees.
But doesn't the weather break this week? Is it Wednesday?
Allegedly tomorrow it's going to be a little better, and then the poor weather people are getting barraged with people saying, the people almost think the weatherman makes the weather. Okay, they always say, why don't you make it better? Okay, Cape Cod learned how to do that. They used to have a thing where they'd post what the weather was, and the Cape Cod Times always said this thing. And they used to say when tomorrow's weather was coming up, that it was going to be partly cloudy. And all the people on the Cape in the tourist industry said, no, it's going to be partly sunny. So everything in the Cape Cod Times now says the day tomorrow is going to be partly sunny, okay?
Okay.
So now the weather's going
Well,
to
it's
be
like half full, half empty.
You got
That's
it.
how you look at it.
okay. What have you been up to in the last month?
The
Summertime, but you guys just finished. Oh my God, you spent tons of time down there within the last couple of weeks
yeah.
with endless bills and getting stuff through and accomplishing apparently a whole lot.
Well, hopefully in a month from now, we can say we accomplished a lot. The issue, and I say that because we have the formal session deadline July 31st.
Yeah.
So anything that requires a formal roll call vote
Right.
has to be done by then. So some of these bills, like we did the housing bond bill, we've done an economic development bond bill, we've done an IT bond bill.
Yeah.
All these bond bills, the state constitution requires a roll call vote for final passage. So if we don't, so we've each side's done a version.
Okay.
So we're just sitting in conference committee.
But if they don't come
Come out by the
something,
31st.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is
then
where,
you have to start over again.
and we start over again next year. Now, the Senate President or the Speaker could call us back into session. You need two-thirds vote on each side.
Right.
But
What's going to happen if it's 90 degrees?
and even we had this problem 2 years ago. Remember, we did an economic development bill. This is, remember when that the state exceeded that $1 billion and we had that tax rebate that.
Yeah.
So we had that in economic development bond bill. The two leadership would not bring people back to make a final vote. So we ended up passing everything that excluding the bond authorizations.
Right.
So we just did the economic development bill last week, and so it's going to be sad that some of these initiatives, if we can't get the bills to conference and out, it's going to be sad that some of these things are going to go to waste.
I've said this 1,000 times. every morning, 7 days a week, I read two newspapers, okay? The Boston Globe and the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. The Worcester Telegram and Gazette, as I say, I get through approximately in about 13 to 14 minutes, including the comics, and then I get to the real news, which is mostly in the Globe. The Globe has been on this tear about you people. Why does everything have to be piled into the end of this? And why does the end not happen when it is supposed to happen? It always exceeds the time limit to when you guys are supposed to have voted on all of this
Well-
sort of stuff. And I said to myself, to the newspaper, and to whoever wrote it, saying, this has never happened. They have never come in on time. The Massachusetts legislature, since I was in grammar school, never got through by when's the date you're supposed to do all that?
We're supposed to be finished by July 31st.
July 31st, yeah.
Right, for formal sessions, but, so the budget's supposed to be done by June 30th,
Right, June 30th, right.
and now we're into July. Originally, some of the speculation on why it was taking so long was that, if you remember, we had the $800 million 9C cuts, emergency cuts the governor made in January.
yes.
Then February, the benchmarks came in lower, so we were down again.
Yeah.
Then March was relatively, pretty much on pace.
Yeah.
Then we had April came in, big numbers.
Big numbers.
In the black.
Yep, yep,
Then May came in below, but we were still in the black.
right.
So June was the critical month.
I think my finances were about exactly the same thing, black and white.
So June was the month that, depending on what the revenues were, would determine whether we finished the end of the fiscal year in the red or the black.
Yeah.
So, but we usually get those revenue numbers the first week of the month.
Okay.
So we should have had those now.
What you're saying to the Globe is, these are the reasons that this all got kind of slowed down a bit, because there were other things that were of a more critical nature than some
Well,
of the
so
other stuff.
there's that. But
Yeah.
we should have gotten the numbers by now.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's taking so long now. But the other issue too we have is that there's also in the Constitution, there are certain bills that have to start in the House.
Right.
So a tax increase, a tax cut,
Yep.
have to start in the House of Representatives.
Yep.
Bonding authorizations have to start in the House of Representatives. So you look at the Economic Development Bill,
Yep.
bond bill. The
Yep.
governor filed that last fall.
That you guys just passed.
Right, the governor filed it last fall in the House.
Yep.
The House sent it over to us the week before, so a week ago Thursday. The housing bond bill, I think, was filed in maybe December or January. The House sent that over to us while we were debating the budget. So there are some things that were out of our control.
Right.
Now, you could sit and say, well, the Senate President and the Speaker should work that out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you there, but
They
didn't happen.
should. They should, yeah. Okay.
But I will tell you this, Kevin, that when I first got elected, every Thursday, we were in session
Yeah,
and we were voting legislation.
yeah.
That's no longer the case. Now it's, I look at last fall. Other than doing a supplemental budget, there really was no legislation that was put through committees.
Right. Naming post office maybe or something.
Yeah. So, look, there is some legitimate criticism that we're not doing individual bills. Now, if I go back to the beginning of the legislative session, the bills I filed,
Yeah,
I can go back and say, you're going to look and say, well, Senator, you didn't get any of your bills passed.
right.
Well, yes and no, I didn't. But those bills, several of those bills were passed in bigger bills. They were added as amendments to bigger bills.
Absolutely.
So I can go back. But see, now there's more of that.
Yeah.
There's more, and this is where the Globe is,
Yeah.
the editorial of the article was correct in that you're seeing more legislation that is individual pieces that are being added to omnibus bills.
Absolutely.
Which, you can argue what's good or bad, but I think that's what's put us in the situation now where we've had since the budget, since May, we're under this time restriction.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, it was just started this off that, some of these bills, like the gun bill,
Right.
that doesn't have to be done by July 31st. It should, because even if that comes out of conference, if it doesn't require a roll call vote, but that's going to be a bill that's going to be a lot of controversy over. So that's one that you will not see the membership let be passed by an informal session.
Right.
Then there's some other bills, so, we'll hopefully we'll see these conference committees come out. If you look at the difference between the House and the Senate economic development bills, or the House and the Senate housing bond bills, there's some significant differences they're gonna have to work out, and just hopefully they can.
Yeah. Over an extraordinarily short period of time.
Yes, yeah,
That's really something.
yeah.
When we finished last month's program, we were talking about all sorts of budget issues and legislation and the rest of it, and we came to the end of it, and one of the things that Alex had on our list, and I promised Alex would bring it up again today, is there is that piece of legislation that you kind of came to the fore on, basically relating to the concrete that disintegrates.
The crumbling foundations,
All over the
pyrite.
Pyrrhotite.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it because I couldn't pronounce it. Pyrrhotite.
Well,
Okay.
it took me a while to get it.
It just eats away at concrete
Yes,
and eats away to the point that houses that are above concrete have a great possibility or probability of falling down.
Correct.
Okay. It seems to be localized. I mean, it's not everywhere. It's around.
well, so this is
Maybe
where.
it is. But tell me about that. You got involved in that.
So what happened was Senator Ann Goby
Ann
actually
Goby.
took the lead
Right.
on this before she left.
And she was the senator from,
From west of Worcester.
okay, where Durant is
You
now.
correct.
Yeah.
So basically, it started in Connecticut,
Yeah.
and then it started affecting homes in Senator Goby's area. So you had Brimfield,
Right. Right.
those towns up in those areas. But at that time, they started. Connecticut came up with a plan on how to remediate the issue and help homeowners
Right.
pay for the expenses of basically putting a new foundation in.
Right.
So, but they also at that point they got geologists, and they mapped out the vein of this pyrrhotite.
Right. Because I can remember up in North County, there was a time in which they were saying, well, there was a particular concrete company who was producing concrete.
So-
it seemed to be the source of where all this bad stuff was coming from.
So what they did is when they looked at Connecticut, Massachusetts ended up creating a task force made up of the concrete industry, homeowners. They had some state officials on there, and the pyrrhotite was confined originally to those areas.
Okay.
But again, this is where and they had one pit in Connecticut
Yeah.
that was known to contain this material.
Right.
Now, what people have to remember is this is not something that before it was discovered that the concrete industry knew.
Knew it.
So no one knew. So it wasn't like they were selling a product that they knew was defective.
Was bad, no.
It was bad. So basically, they formed this commission. They get geologists. The geologists basically have mapped out where they think the vein of this pyrrhotite is.
Brings this bad stuff in.
Right. So it goes from Connecticut.
Okay, so-
right up through Central Mass, all the way up into the North Shore.
Jump into where we are with legislation.
So we tried. So in the budget, we were trying to.
You and my favorite South County Republican Senator Fatman are on the same team.
Myself, Senator Fat Man,
And Paul, is his name Paul? Paul Durant?
Peter Durant.
Peter Durant. Okay. All right.
So
Who
basically,
has turned out to be not the moderate Republican I thought he was going to be, but that's okay. I called him a moderate Republican at one point, and it turned out I was wrong. He's more than a moderate Republican.
so basically, what happens now is we created a task force that's going to look at what we're going to set up for a remediation program. We were proposing to copy Connecticut's version, which was to create a captive insurance fund, have a fee on insurance policies for all homeowners,
Right.
which Connecticut was a $12 fee on all home insurance policies. Massachusetts would have been less because we have more homeowners and more homes. So, but
How the insurance companies feel about
also
this?
what we did is we created this task force. It's made up of professionals, experts in this area, and also insurance, banking, some realtors, and we also have homeowners, and we got government involved. They are going to look at determining how we are going to pay for this, the
Okay.
program, and look at Connecticut and determine whether Connecticut's model is something we should use. So we're at that stage now where they're actually going to look at this. Now, the important thing about this is when Connecticut did it, the federal government actually had a program in place to help homeowners.
Oh, really?
But so the federal government would have to reauthorize it. But also the caveat to that is the only way homeowners could access that money is if the state that they resided in had some sort of program in place.
In place.
So that's
Okay,
why it's
so
critical for us to
there's
do.
something that's working out, okay? Another thing that isn't on Alex's bill that was in the Telegram and Gazette
Yes.
is that you and my favorite state representative from Worcester, who is on the report with you,
James O'Day.
Jimmy
Jim O'Day.
Jimmy O'Day. I love Jimmy O'Day. He's just my kind of liberal. Sorry. And it was a report that came out to public health about issues of complaints from people, and primarily nurses, about the care and the ability to give appropriate care at St. Vincent's Hospital. And I read this, and the two of you picked up on this, actually promoted making sure this report came out, and then letting people know what the report said. Tell us about that. It was in the Telegram.
Yeah, so basically what happened, the M&A.
That took me more than 12 minutes to read. But
The Mass Nurses Association, we all know they had a strike.
yeah.
What was resolved and what got resolved and didn't get resolved, that's, took
Right.
place. But, so basically, since then, the nurses filed 600 complaints
Yeah.
about patient care and quality of care.
Yeah.
So Public Health did an investigation. They came back and they found, what they had told Representative Day and I, was that they found one violation out of the 600 dealing with, they had a shortage of telemetry
Yeah.
equipment.
I saw it, right.
So,
I didn't understand.
and they rectified it. So then the hospital sent in the remedial action they took.
Yeah.
So basically, our concern was that, look, Worcester at one point, when I was growing up, had 4 hospitals, 3, 4, 5 hospitals.
Right.
Now we're down to 2.
Right.
We see the crisis going on with Stewart and other hospitals.
Absolutely.
So we wanted people, when we met with St. Vincent's, because when they had all these complaints filed, obviously there's concern from the legislators on what's the quality of care being offered here.
Right.
So they came back, they said, look,
And amongst prospective patients.
Right. So they came back and said, look, we don't think these complaints are valid. So we wait for Public Health to issue the report. This report comes out where they found one of the 600. So we then go to Public Health because we want the public to know that, yes, you have quality health care here.
Right.
Ask them to put that
Yeah.
press release out that's saying that the investigation was done. There's only one out of 600. And we had a Public Health, well, we don't do that type of information.
Yeah,
Press
it's
release.
crazy. That's
So,
crazy.
so,
It's
we- so
absolutely crazy.
Representative O'Day and I said, look, it's important because we need the people to know.
Sure.
So,
I'm so glad that you and Jimmy got
so Jimmy and
involved.
Rep. O'Day and I did an editorial.
Right.
And it's funny because we did an editorial.
Yeah.
The T&G hasn't printed the editorial,
I saw
yet they
that.
had a reporter call us about the editorial.
Right. Right.
So that's where the information, so that's where it came back. And now when I talked about what went on between us, the three parties.
Sure.
Also, my concern is that I said, look, I said, and this is true. I got a little bothered by this. It's like it's always like taking sides.
Yeah.
The nurses, I'm sure that they're not happy that O'Day and I did that editorial
Right.
talking about the quality of care and that it is quality of care there.
Right.
But like I said to to the reporter for that article, some of the care being provided at the hospital is by these very same nurses.
Right.
So we're not attacking the M&A or attacking the nurses. We're just simply saying that, look, yes, for the general public who has seen this, the care you're going to get there by the doctors and the nurses
Right.
is good. Now, apparently, what happened is that since the 600 complaints have been resolved, the nurses have filed another 300.
Okay.
So at what point? This is what I said to the report. I said, look, at what point do we start looking at
Right.
the validity of
Right.
the complaints that are filed?
Right. Who do you call it? Murray, my favorite guy, commerce, the Chamber of Commerce guy.
Yep.
Who's a wonderful, wonderful guy. He did a long editorial kind of thing in the paper, basically saying, hey, this is the only for-profit hospital in Worcester. Pros and cons to profit, non-profit. But bear in mind how much dough in taxes we collect from St. Vincent's Hospital and how much dough it produces in additional taxation from everything else that's related around St. Vincent's Hospital. And just bear in mind that that's money that, if that hospital goes under, we're just looking at it from a purely economic point of view. It's going to be a substantial hit on
Well,
the state. And I was intrigued that he wrote that, bearing in mind, he's a very political kind of person, my kind of political person.
So this is, look, we can't,
Okay.
that, right on the money with that.
Yeah.
But the issue is, to me, part of the issue is, all right, yes, we have that concern, but the main concern we should be looking at is the quality of the care.
Absolutely,
Now,
no question.
if
And
you-
he
and-
made that clear in his
If-
so-called opinion.
But if you have an issue, look, so we know part of the issues the M&A has had with this is the
Right.
the staffing levels.
Absolutely.
They've tried it by legislation. Regrettably, it hasn't passed. They went to a voter referendum.
Yeah.
Didn't pass. The voters shot it down. They held out in the strike to get better. Hasn't passed. So I guess my concern is if this is the next? Are they going to try to put the hospital in a financial situation? Which, if they are, look, we've got the issue of, are we placing in jeopardy one of the two hospitals that we have in Worcester? And look, Stewart, we see what's going on in other hospitals. I mean, we can't afford to have another hospital close. But we should ensure, and this is, as I said in the article, if DPH comes back and finds that of the 300 complaints that they're valid,
Yeah.
then look, we need to take action to make sure that they're getting care.
Absolutely.
But we got to make sure that things aren't being put out in the public that's going to hurt
Right.
a valuable institution from the economic standpoint and the healthcare standpoint.
Did the nurses comment at all on the public health report? I mean,
Yeah,
did
they questioned the
the depth of the requirements or something?
they questioned the investigation done by DPH, whether it was a adequate investigation.
Okay.
So,
Oh, well.
but
in any
again,
event-
I said, again, for everyone out there, from what DPH has seen at the hospital, they have not found violations. So I think there was one that came from a private individual that went to national accrediting,
Right.
which they never discussed with myself and Rick Day. So out of the 600, there were technically two. One they didn't talk about with us, so we had no idea about that one. But the second one is the telemetry equipment, which they did rectify. So, I mean, so if you look at, again, 600 complaints, 598
Yeah.
came unfounded. I think the important issue is that, look, if a complaint's going to be filed, if they're valid complaints, that's fine.
Do something about it.
But we got to make sure that we're not just doing something to hurt one of our medical institutions.
Right. Okay. Here we are. Do you think I look like Ernest Hemingway?
Yes.
Okay.
Now that you say that, when
Do you,
I went to
My-
Cuba,
Wait.
I remember seeing a painting of him,
do you think?
and I can see the resemblance. Now you just need the hat. And
Maybe we'll need some kind of survey done about that. My wife and I go to a great little restaurant in Northborough, right over the Shrewsbury line, called A.G. Tomiello's. Tomiello family runs it for ages. Okay, it's our Cheers. Okay, we know everybody who's there. We know the bartenders. We know the entire family that owns it. It's like going to the television program. And all of that sort of stuff. She's there. She did a pickup. We decided we were going to have pizza takeout from there. So Virginia says, "I'll go down and get it." And she ran into Peter Blute, one of the few Republicans I still like. Okay, because he comes in because he's a Blute family. Knew his mother and father, knew all the family. My wife taught one of the 8 children at Notre Dame Academy. She was Virginia's superstar on the stage, and she eventually went to Boston College, which made her a superstar for me. And she is now Paula Evan, who's on the 5 o'clock news every single night on WBZ. And Virginia goes in and makes comments about her hair and then tells her about it, okay? So Peter said he and his wife watch this program regularly, and they and a lot of other people say, I look just like Ernest Hemingway. So he's dead. I'm not, okay? He died in 1961. I'm still around. Just a slight comment. There is a $2.86 billion bond bill, which has passed the Senate.
Yes.
It will now, and the same kind of bond bill, same kind of it passed the House, and now it's gone to a conference committee consisting of 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans who sit in a quiet room segregated from the world, which is a discussion we'll have some other day.
So quickly,
Yeah.
2 amendments I had passed in that bond bill.
yes.
One dealt with what's called deep fakes. That's dealing with AI, generative AI.
Yeah.
And that's where, if people remember when the phone call that went out up in New Hampshire.
Yep.
Someone had done a deep
Yep.
fake type of phone call for
Gotcha.
Biden. So this would make that a criminal offense. Another one was dealing with the robotics industry.
Yep.
That we, the entire industry in the state and in the country supports putting a ban on robots having any sort of weapons. So we actually passed that in the bond bill. So this is something that could come out, whether the bond bill makes it by the time for a roll call vote or not.
Okay.
This is a language, this
Okay.
actually could pass. And the other thing was that you and I, and you both know that I voted against the raising the age of 19.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
And I agree with you on that. Unfortunately, I want to talk more about that, but we only have 27 seconds left to end up this program. It was kind of a nice catch up on all sorts of other things.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to do this again in August, where the temperature is going to be 75 degrees.
You
with
hope.
no humidity and a slight breeze coming off the shore of Lake Quinsigamond. Okay. You will see us again at that time. Until that time, be well, stay cool. Have a good day.